The Kavery Delta in Tamil Nadu is one of the most fertile and historically significant regions of South India. Formed by the branching distributaries of the Kavery River as it approaches the Bay of Bengal, the delta has sustained agriculture, trade, and settlement for centuries. Among its coastal towns, Tarangambadi Tranquebar stands out as a unique site where local Tamil rulers and European powers intersected. In 1620, the Danish admiral Ove Yed, with the support of the Thanjavur Nayak King Raghunatha Nayaka, established Fort Dansberg at Tarangambadi. This fort became the nucleus of a Danish trading port, linking the Kavery Delta's textile production to European markets. The Walayar River, a distributary of the Kavery, flows through Mayiladuthurai district and empties into the Bay of Bengal near Tarangambadi. Its estuary provided fresh water, irrigation, and a natural harbor for small vessels. The river's role was crucial. It connected inland weaving villages and rice fields to the Danish port, enabling the export of cloth, rice, and fish. The settlement grew into a fortified town with Raja and Rani streets, missionary houses, and printing presses, where Bartholomeus Ziegenbalg produced the first Tamil books in movable type in 1712. The Danish port of Tranquebar thrived through the 17th and 18th centuries, exporting textiles and engaging in Indo-European trade. Yet by the 19th century, its importance declined, and in 1845 the British purchased the Danish settlements. Today, Fort Dansberg still stands as a monument, protected since 1977 by the Tamil Nadu Department of Archaeology, with a Danish site museum established in 1979 to highlight the political, social, trade, and cultural contacts between India and Denmark. The Archaeological Survey of India preserved mainly the city gate, while other structures were restored later by INTACH and local initiatives. Thus, the Kavery Delta's landscape, with the Walayar River, Tarangambadi town, and the Danish port, embodies a layered history of riverine ecology, Tamil royal patronage, European colonial ambition, and cultural exchange. It remains a place where the flow of the Kavery met the tides of global trade and missionary activity, leaving behind a heritage that continues to shape the identity of the Coromandel coast. INTACH, the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, was founded in New Delhi on 27 January 1984 under the leadership of Pupil Jayakar, with support from figures such as Rajiv Gandhi, Kapila Vatsyayan, and Martan Singh. Its purpose was to create a membership-based organization dedicated to conserving India's built, natural, and intangible heritage. Registered under the Society's Registration Act of 1860, INTACH quickly grew into one of the world's largest heritage NGOs, gaining consultative status with the UN Economic and Social Council in 2007. In Tamil Nadu, INTACH's work became especially visible in Tranquebar, Tarangambadi. The Archaeological Survey of India had preserved only the city gate and parts of Dansberg Fort, leaving much of the colonial town neglected. Beginning in the 1990s, INTACH initiated heritage mapping of Tranquebar, documenting Danish, Nayak, and missionary structures. It restored Dansberg Fort, stabilizing its ramparts and converting it into a museum. It rebuilt the governor's house in 2011, turning it into a cultural center. It conserved Ziegenbalg House, memorializing the first Protestant missionary in India, and highlighted the history of Tamil printing by preserving sites linked to the press established in 1712. INTACH also worked on colonial streetscapes such as Raja Street, Rani Street, and the Queen's Library, integrating them into heritage walks and community projects. INTACH's approach in Tranquebar combined architectural conservation with community outreach. It trained local artisans, organized heritage clubs in schools, and partnered with Danish heritage organizations to secure funds and expertise. This collaboration ensured that Indo-Danish heritage was not only preserved but also interpreted for local residents. INTACH Tranquebar chapter works with Danish heritage organizations and Tamil Evangelical Lutheran Church, TELC. Double-check these collected information before use. From the early 17th century, Denmark's presence in India was anchored at Tranquebar on the Coromandel coast. In 1620, Admiral Ove Yed secured a treaty with the Thanjavur Nayak ruler, establishing Fort Dansberg as the headquarters of the Danish East India Company. The fort's trapezoidal plan, thick brick ramparts, and seaward bastions reflected Scandinavian sea fort architecture, echoing Kronborg Castle in Denmark but adapted to tropical climate and local materials. Dansberg became the second largest Danish fort worldwide, serving as both a trading post and a colonial administrative center. The Danish East India Company, founded in 1616, sought to compete with the Dutch and English in Asian trade. From Tranquebar, Denmark exported textiles, especially Thanjavur cloth, to Europe. The settlement also became a center of missionary activity. Bartholomeus Ziegenbalg and Heinrich Plutchow established the first Protestant mission in India, introduced printing presses, and translated Christian texts into Tamil. Schools and educational initiatives followed, marking Denmark's contribution to Indian education from the 17th century onwards. Denmark's wider colonial economy was tied to the Atlantic slave trade and Caribbean sugar plantations. In the mid-18th century, Danish merchants also engaged in smuggling tea into Britain. Under high British tea taxes, Danish neutral ships carried contraband tea from continental Europe to Britain, profiting from the demand. This smuggling peaked in the 1750s-1770s. The turning point came with Britain's Commutation Act of 1784, which slashed tea duties from over 100% to 12.5%. Legal tea became cheap, smuggling unprofitable, and Denmark's ventures collapsed. At the same time, the Haitian Revolution disrupted French sugar supplies, Britain's navy tightened control of the Channel, and Denmark's own economy weakened. By 1792, Denmark abolished the slave trade, and by 1845 it sold its Indian colonies to Britain, withdrawing from Asia.
Fall back apart. Find pieces.
The architectural comparison between Kronborg and Dansberg illustrates Denmark's dual identity. Kronborg, rebuilt in the late 16th century, was a Renaissance royal fortress guarding the Orson Strait, ornate and symbolic, immortalized in Shakespeare's Hamlet. Danzburg was a colonial bastion, utilitarian and functional, guarding a trading post on the Bay of Bengal. Both were maritime in spirit, but Kronborg embodied royal grandeur while Danzburg embodied colonial pragmatism. On India's coasts, the contrast between Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal fortifications is striking. The western coast, from Gujarat to Kerala, is dotted with sea forts dating back to the 10th century, built by local rulers and later expanded by the Portuguese and Marathas. The eastern coast has fewer: Danzburg at Tranquebar, Alampirai near Mahabalipuram, Fort St. George in Chennai, Vizianagaram Fort in Andhra, and Barabati Fort in Odisha. These were primarily trading posts and river-mouth defenses rather than dense chains of fortifications. Cultural threads also connect Denmark's heritage. Danish music from 1600 onwards evolved from Christian IV's court, where Mogens Petersen studied under Giovanni Gabrieli, through romantic nationalism with Niels Gade and Berggren, to Carl Nielsen's symphonies and modern jazz and pop. Viking musical instruments in Denmark included the ribe lyre, bone flutes, horns, lyres, jaw harps, and drums, showing how music was woven into ritual and storytelling. Denmark's own bagpipe counterpart, the sekpipe, was a single drone folk instrument used in Jutland until the 18th century, quieter and simpler than the Scottish Highland pipes, suited for village dances. Together these strands form a coherent narrative: Denmark's colonial foothold in Tamil Nadu, its architectural imprint at Danzburg, its role in Indian education and textile trade, its entanglement in global sugar and tea economies, and its cultural inheritance in music and instruments. The story of Tranquebar is thus not only a local heritage tale but part of a wider Danish lineage stretching from Kronborg's Renaissance grandeur to Danzburg's colonial bastions, from Atlantic smuggling to Coromandel cloth, and from Viking lyres to the sekpipe. It is a layered history of politics, trade, architecture, and culture, woven across continents and centuries. Denmark's colonial presence in India was not confined to trade alone, it was entangled with politics, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. In 1620 Admiral Ove Yed arrived on the Coromandel coast and, with the support of the Thanjavur Nayak ruler, secured land at Tranquebar to build Fort Danzburg. The Nayak's assistance was crucial. Without his treaty and protection, the Danes could not have established their foothold. Danzburg became the headquarters of the Danish East India Company, a trapezoidal sea fort that reflected Scandinavian military design but was adapted to local materials and climate. The Danish settlement at Tranquebar was more than a fort. It grew into a port town with warehouses, governor's residence, soldiers' quarters, and a chapel. The city thrived on textile exports, especially Thanjavur cloth, which was shipped to Europe. Missionaries such as Bartholomeus Ziegenbalg introduced printing presses, producing the first Tamil books in movable type. His Tamil Bible translation and educational initiatives marked a turning point in the history of Indian printing and schooling. Tranquebar thus became a center of cultural as well as commercial exchange. Denmark's presence in India also intersected with the Mughal Empire. In Bengal, Danish traders clashed with Mughal authorities during the Long Dano-Mughal War, 1642 to 1698. The conflict ended with a treaty in 1698, when Danish envoys offered gifts of rupees and cannons to secure peace and trading rights near Hooghly. This settlement, Danmarksnagar, became their base in Bengal. Unlike the Portuguese or British, the Danes never gained direct access to the Mughal court in Delhi, remaining a minor trading power confined to provincial negotiations. By the 19th century, Tranquebar's fortunes declined. When Britain purchased Danish settlements in 1845, the port lost its international role. Today, much of the fort remains, but the town itself has faded. The Archaeological Survey of India, (ASI), has preserved the city gate and parts of Fort Dansburg, yet many other structures, warehouses, missionary houses, and printing press sites, have been neglected. Local rebuilding efforts and heritage enthusiasts have restored some churches and houses, but ASI's focus has been narrow, leaving much of Tranquebar's layered history ignored. This neglect contrasts with the richness of what once stood there: a bustling port city, a hub of Tamil printing, a center of Danish colonial administration, and a site of cross-cultural encounters. The canons gifted to the Mughals, the Tamil books printed by Ziegenbalg, the Nyack's treaty that enabled Dansburg, and the port that connected India to Denmark's global trade, all these elements form a narrative that stretches from European politics to Tamil cultural history. Denmark's story in India is thus a tapestry: the Nyack's alliance, the fort's architecture, the Mughal conflicts, the printing of Tamil books, the rise and fall of Tranquebar port, and the selective preservation by ASI. It is a history of ambition and decline, of cultural innovation and political marginality, of what remains and what has been forgotten. In tracing this lineage, one sees how a small European kingdom left a lasting, if often overlooked, imprint on the Coromandel coast. In the 17th century AD, a Danish castle was in existence at Tarangambadi village, which was once a flourishing trade center. This was built in the year 1620 AD by the Danish Royal Navy commander Ove Gedde, during the rule of the Nayaka king Raghunatha Nayaka of Tanjore. Even up to the 19th century AD, it continued to remain as a trade center under the control of the British. This Danish fort has been protected as a monument by the Tamil Nadu State Department of Archaeology since 1977. A thematic Danish site museum was established in the year 1979 at this fort to bring out the political, social, trade, and cultural contacts between India and Denmark. In the 17th century, Denmark established its first Asian colony at Tranquebar, Tarangambadi on the Coromandel coast. Admiral Ove Gedde arrived in 1620, securing a treaty with Raghunatha Nayak of Thanjavur, and built Fort Dansberg as the headquarters of the Danish East India Company. From this base, Denmark exported cotton textiles, pepper, and indigo from the fertile Kavery Delta and the Uppenar River estuary, linking inland weaving villages to European markets. By the 18th century, Denmark expanded its Asian trade network to include China. In 1730, the first Danish ship sailed to Canton, Guangzhou, the Qing dynasty's designated port for foreign trade. Between 1732 and 1772, the Danish Asiatic Company auctioned 94 shiploads of goods in Copenhagen, earning more than 40 million rigsdaler. While Tranquebar supplied textiles and pepper, the greatest profits came from Chinese tea and porcelain, which dominated European demand. Denmark also attempted to extend its colonial reach to the Nicobar Islands. On 12 December 1755, Danish settlers declared the islands a colony, first named New Denmark, later Frederiksborn, Fredericks Islands. Administered from Tranquebar, the colony was repeatedly abandoned due to malaria outbreaks and isolation. Austria briefly tried to claim the islands in 1778, renaming them the Teresia Islands, but Denmark reasserted control. By the mid-19th century, the colony had collapsed, and on 16 October 1868 Denmark formally sold its rights to Britain for 12.5 lakh rupees, with the islands incorporated into British India in 1869. Thus, Denmark's Asian presence was a layered story: the political alliance with the Nayaks that enabled Tranquebar, the Indo-Chinese trade through Canton that enriched Copenhagen, and the failed Nicobar colony that was eventually sold to Britain. These episodes reveal how a small European kingdom sought to carve out a place in the global trade networks of the 17th to 19th centuries, leaving behind forts, treaties, ports, and cultural imprints across the Bay of Bengal and beyond. Chronological timeline of Danish India. 1616. The Danish East India Company is chartered by King Christian IV of Denmark to compete with the Dutch and English in Asian trade. 1620. Admiral Ove Yed arrives on the Coromandel coast. With the support of Raghunatha Nayak of Thanjavur, Denmark establishes Tranquebar, Tarangambadi and builds Fort Dansberg. This becomes Denmark's headquarters in India. 1650s to 1700s. Tranquebar thrives as a textile and pepper port. Missionaries such as Bartholomeus Ziegenbalg arrive in 1706, founding the first Protestant mission in India. In 1712, Ziegenbalg sets up a printing press, producing the first Tamil books in movable type. 1730. Denmark expands trade to Canton, Guangzhou, China. The first Danish ship sails from Copenhagen to Canton. 1732 to 1772. The Danish Asiatic Company auctions 94 shiploads of goods in Copenhagen, earning over 40 million rigsdaler. Profits come mainly from Chinese tea and porcelain, though Tranquebar supplies textiles and pepper. 1755 to 1756. Denmark attempts to colonize the Nicobar Islands, declaring them New Denmark, later renamed Frederiksborn, Frederick's Islands. The colony is administered from Tranquebar. 1759 to 1768, malaria devastates the Nicobar colony, forcing abandonment. 1778 to 1784, Austria briefly claims the Nicobar Islands, renaming them the Teresia Islands, believing Denmark had abandoned them. 1780s to 1830s, Denmark makes repeated attempts to re-establish Nicobar settlements, but disease and isolation cause repeated failures. 1784, Britain passes the Commutation Act, reducing tea duties and ending Denmark's profitable tea smuggling into Britain. 1814 to 1831, Danish settlers return to Nicobar, but the colony collapses again. 1845, Denmark sells Tranquebar and Srirampur to the British East India Company for 12.5 lakh rupees, ending its mainland Indian presence. 1868 to 1869, Denmark formally sells the Nicobar Islands to Britain on 16 October 1868. By 1869, they are incorporated into British India. Danish India unfolded in three arcs. Tranquebar 1620 to 1845, a fortified port, missionary hub, and textile export center. Canton 1730 to 1770s, the gateway to Chinese tea and porcelain, enriching Copenhagen. Nicobar Islands 1755 to 1868, a failed colonial experiment, repeatedly abandoned and finally sold to Britain. Denmark's ambitions in Asia were tied to a larger plan of global navigation and trade, which in effect was their attempt to circumnavigate the Earth through commerce rather than exploration alone. In 1616, King Christian IV chartered the Danish East India Company, aiming to join the Dutch and English in the global spice and textile trade. Admiral Ove Yed sailed from Copenhagen in 1618, reaching Tranquebar Tarangambadi in 1620, where he built Fort Dansberg with the support of Raghunatha Nayak of Thanjavur. This was Denmark's first Asian colony, exporting cotton textiles, pepper, and indigo. By the 1730s, Denmark extended its voyages to Canton, Guangzhou, China. The first Danish ship arrived in 1730, and between 1732–1772 the Danish Asiatic Company auctioned 94 shiploads of goods in Copenhagen, earning more than 40 million rigsdaler. The profits came mainly from Chinese tea and porcelain, while Indian textiles from Tranquebar filled the cargo holds. This triangular trade, Copenhagen, Tranquebar, Canton, was Denmark's commercial version of circumnavigation, linking Europe, India, and China across the oceans. Denmark also attempted to colonize the Nicobar Islands in the Bay of Bengal. On 12 December 1755, settlers declared the islands New Denmark, later renamed Frederiksborn, Frederick's Islands. Administered from Tranquebar, the colony was repeatedly abandoned due to malaria. Austria briefly claimed them in 1778, renaming them the Teresia Islands, but Denmark reasserted control. Finally, on 16 October 1868, Denmark sold the Nicobar Islands to Britain for 12.5 lakh rupees, and by 1869 they were incorporated into British India. Thus, Denmark's plan to circumnavigate the Earth was not a single voyage like Magellan's, but a network of settlements and trade routes. Tranquebar, 1620–1845, Indian textiles and pepper. Canton, 1730–1770s, Chinese tea and porcelain. Nicobar Islands, 1755–1868, strategic but failed colony. Copenhagen auctions, Europe's entry point for Asian goods. This system allowed Denmark, a small European kingdom, to participate in the global maritime economy, effectively circling the world through its ships, forts, and trading posts.
Same and there were just too many days. When our good intentions only got in the way. And I almost never know what I should say. Maybe nothing nowhere ever was that okay. In this house
Galathea Expedition 1845–1847 marked Denmark's farewell to its Indian colonies and its attempt to re-enter the global stage through science and navigation. The Danish corvette Galathea, commanded by Captain Steen Andersen Byle, sailed from Copenhagen in 1845 with over 200 crew, scientists, and artists. Its mission was twofold: to formally transfer Tranquebar, Tamil Nadu, and Srirampur, Bengal, to the British East India Company after their sale for 12.5 lakh rupees, and to conduct a scientific circumnavigation of the Earth. At Fort Dansberg in Tranquebar, a solemn ceremony was held in October 1845. The Danish flag was lowered, the British flag raised, and officials boarded the Galathea with archives and possessions. From there, the ship continued across the Bay of Bengal, stopping at the Nicobar Islands, which Denmark had tried to colonize since 1755 under the names New Denmark and later Frederiksborn, Fredericks Islands. Malaria had repeatedly forced abandonment, and though Austria briefly claimed them in 1778 as the Teresia Islands, Denmark reasserted control. Eventually, in 1868, Denmark sold the Nicobar Islands to Britain for 12.5 lakh rupees, ending its last Asian colony. The Galathea then sailed on to Canton, Guangzhou, China, the Qing dynasty's sole port for foreign trade. Since 1730, Danish ships had traded there, bringing back tea, porcelain, and silk, which were auctioned in Copenhagen. Between 1732 and 1772, the Danish Asiatic Company sold 94 shiploads, earning over 40 million rigsdaler. The rigsdaler was the currency of Denmark and Norway from the late Middle Ages, 16th century until the 19th century. Tranquebar supplied textiles and pepper, but Canton's tea was the true source of wealth. From China, the Galathea crossed the Pacific, visited South America, and returned to Copenhagen in 1847, completing Denmark's circumnavigation. The voyage collected plants, animals, and ethnographic records, enriching the Royal Danish Museum and symbolizing Denmark's shift from colonial trade to scientific exploration. Remember to double-check. In sum, Denmark's Asian story unfolded in three arcs. Tranquebar, 1620–1845, a fortified port built by Admiral Ove Yed under Nyack patronage, later sold to Britain. Canton, 1730–1770s, the hub of Chinese tea and porcelain trade, enriching Copenhagen auctions. Nicobar Islands, 1755–1868, a failed colony, repeatedly abandoned, finally sold to Britain. The Galathea Expedition, 1845–1847, tied these threads together, a ship that witnessed the farewell at Tranquebar, visited the Nicobar Islands, sailed to Canton, and returned to Copenhagen, completing Denmark's circumnavigation of the globe. It was both an ending and a transformation. From colonial ambition to scientific curiosity, Denmark's global footprint was reimagined through the voyage of a single ship.